Can you believe it is already the sunset of the year 2021? It's hard to believe that we're now entering into the end of the holiday season, the final week or two. Everybody I know is on that mad dash to make sure that everything gets done. And then we'll be looking to 2022. And what will 2022 look like for technical education? That is the theme, that is the topic of our webinar today, is what can we plan for? What predictions do we have for 2022? And we can use all of these now to think about our programs, to think about our strategic plans, to think about our initiatives as we head into the new year. So we're excited to get started, not just with the next year, but with this webinar, and we're going to dive right in. 15 predictions that we have today. 15, we'll go through them relatively quickly. As Melissa suggested, they span the globe, span the spectrum of technical education, industrial trends, things that we think are going to happen in tech ed itself, things that we think are going to affect technical education and education in general. Let's get started. Number one, our number one prediction is that there will be unprecedented funding available to those of us in technical education. I have a good friend out east who runs a company, has been in the education world for 50 years. And he said to me, the amount of money coming into education is staggering, was the word that he used. And for any of us that have been in this space for a while, we recognize that ARPA funds, ESSER funds, CARES Act money, state funds, WIOA funds, a shortage of capital will not be our problem in technical education, but spending it on the right things might. And so we would encourage everybody that while you're looking at new buildings and new infrastructure and new bricks and mortar and adding instructional staff and talent, all of which are important, let's also keep our eye on adding world-class technical education learning systems, the kind of things you've been learning about here for the last, as Melissa said, 85 plus episodes here on Webinar Wednesday. Prediction number one, unprecedented funding available for technical education. Prediction number two is that that funding will not be immune from inflation. If you've been following the news, you know that we are experiencing historical levels of inflation. We haven't seen this level of inflation, this level of weakening in the value of the American dollar since the 1980s. Some might even say since the 1970s. Incredible amount of inflation. And so those dollars that are coming into tech ed are not going to go as far as they did before. And we need to be cognizant of that as we are doing our planning. Because in just one of our businesses, we have pricing in some cases that is going up by 20%. Not because we're being greedy, but because the components, what we pay our suppliers for those components, the pricing of that is going up. And we have no choice but to build those price increases into our price for our customers. As a result of that, those dollars are not going to go as far. Be cognizant of inflation and think about it, build it into your budget so that you're not surprised in 2022. Prediction number three, and the next several predictions have to do directly with technical education. The tech ed teacher shortage, the shortage of instructional talent in technical education, as bad as that is today, it will get worse in 2022, not better. By some estimates, as many as 1 in 4 teachers are considering retiring or leaving the profession. That doesn't mean that all of them are going to leave. It doesn't mean that we're going to see a 25% reduction this year, but a survey earlier this year said a full 1 in 4 were considering doing something else. We have unprecedented levels of retirements already, and that is going to continue as our baby boomers continue to age and continue to retire. And regrettably, fewer and fewer people right now are choosing teaching as a profession. So the tech ed teacher shortage will get worse, not better. There is some good news in that technology will help us offset that. But the truth of the matter is that we're going to have a harder time finding teachers next year than we do this year. And so we have to start thinking about these next several predictions and how they affect what we're doing in tech ed. Prediction number 4 is the up-teching of technical education. So technical education is getting much more technical. And in the past, where we had tech ed teachers graduating from universities teaching traditional tech ed courses, those courses are getting a lot more technical. We're getting away from things like birdhouses and maybe traditional welding or traditional construction, traditional CNC programs, and getting into much more cutting edge technology. Doesn't mean that those programs are going away completely. Of course, we're always going to have a need for teaching machining, for teaching welding, but we also have to teach robotics and automation and smart technology and smart sensors and smart devices and all of these other technologies. So we are getting more and more technical in the world of technical education. Requires a different level of skills and competencies for our teachers. And I'm proud to say many of them are stepping up and sharpening those skills as technology changes. 342 teachers taught or trained in the world of Industry 4.0 in 3 Midwestern states alone over the course of the last 2 years. But this technology is going to get more and more sophisticated, and we in technical education must keep up with that unprecedented rapid change in technology. Prediction number 5, in part because of the shortage of technical education talent and really a shortage of teachers across the spectrum, but technical education is starting to see teachers porting over from other disciplines. So we're now seeing math teachers, physics teachers, in some cases even English teachers finding their way into teaching technical education. One of my favorite examples is this woman on your screen. She retired not too long ago, but her name is Lynn Morris, and Lynn was a teacher at ISD 917 in Southeast Minnesota. And Lynn said to me this. She said, I'm not going to let my lack of familiarity with things like robotics and manufacturing and advanced manufacturing stand in the way of world-class, amazing career opportunities for my students. And so she took it upon herself to learn Industry 4.0 technology and to be able to teach it in the classroom. What a great example for all of us as we consider lifelong learning, as we consider the fact that what we know today may not be applicable in the world of tomorrow, and that we still have to make sure that our students have exposure to these amazing career pathways and amazing career opportunities. So prediction number 5, we will see more and more teachers porting over from other aspects of education into technical education. All right, prediction number 6. This whole idea of do-it-yourself tech ed is starting to die. What we mean by that is that historically we have had teachers that have created their own curriculum, created their own learning experiences. And what they will tell you is that that is getting more and more difficult as technology and the rate of advancement in technology continues to change. So the truth is that more and more teachers are now relying on standardized turnkey learning systems that may have been developed by somebody else that then they can put to work in the classroom. And so this idea of do-it-yourself creation of curriculum and technical education, that is starting to go away. In fact, it has been going away for some time. Not quickly enough, in my opinion, but it has been going away. Here's why that is important. What is the highest and best use of a teacher? I ask you to think about that for a minute. What is a teacher's highest and best use? If you ask me that question, I would tell you their highest and best use is in the classroom, inspiring students, showing them they had skills or teaching them skills that they didn't otherwise have, showing them that they had interests or there were career pathways available to them that they might not have otherwise considered. In my educational pathway, those were the teachers that made the most difference for me. And I would say that is true of almost every student. So teachers, hear this. The magic you work in the classroom is exactly that. Don't cut your students short by taking that precious time, especially in an era where we have a shortage of tech ed teachers, taking that precious time and do anything other than inspiring your students, other than teaching your students. Leave the curriculum development, leave the skills development programs to somebody else and focus on your students. Don't spend your time reinventing a wheel that already exists. So prediction number 6 is that DIY in technical education is waning and it's going away. Prediction number 7 for 2022 is this. Industry recognized credentials will continue to proliferate. What we mean by this is credentials offered by organizations like MSSC or NOCTI or the Smart Automation Certification Alliance. Credentials that demonstrate that an individual has specific competencies, has specific abilities, has gone through specific training and passed an exam, both a hands-on exam and or an online exam, to demonstrate that they know what they say they know. These are becoming increasingly valued by industrial employers, so says the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Ohio, where they just invested $13.5 million in a credential program. We see that in the state of Michigan as well, with Governor Whitmer's 60 by 30 initiative, and seeing the investment that is being made in the importance of having individuals earning post-secondary credentials. 60% of the people in Michigan, is her goal, will hold a post-secondary credential or degree by the year 2030. So these are going to continue to proliferate. Incredibly valuable. Associate degrees are valuable. Tech diplomas are valuable. 4-year degrees, master degrees, PhDs, high school diplomas are valuable. So are industry recognized credentials. They don't replace any of those, but they complement them. And they show that individuals have specific competencies. We will continue to see industry recognized credentials proliferate over the course of 2022. All right, almost halfway through. Prediction number 8. We will see more hands-on programs in universities. More hands-on programs in universities. You know, my wife is a degreed engineer. She has her undergrad and her master's degree in engineering. And she will tell you if she had to do it over again, she might consider technical college for 2 years before she went on to earn those 4-year degrees and her master's degree, because she is a hands-on learner. Most people that find themselves in engineering and in STEM disciplines tend to be hands-on learners. And we can learn so many things by engaging directly with technology. But sadly, many university programs don't really get into the nuts and bolts of cool hands-on learning until sometimes their junior or senior year of their programs. We need to pull that forward. We need to have younger students, newer students experiencing and putting to work what they are learning in their classrooms so that they have a context for what that technology is, especially because so many of them are in fact hands-on kinesthetic learners. I have a good friend who runs the automation department of a large Fortune 500 company, and he tells me that the challenge when he hires 4-year engineers is that they're really, really smart with theory, but many of them, depending on where they went to school, don't necessarily have the hands-on application that is so very important when engineers get to the workforce. We're going to see, and we're starting to see, universities rethink their programs, rethink the value of hands-on learning, and implement more and more hands-on learning into their programs. That trend will continue in the year 2022. On to prediction number 9, higher tech student-run businesses. Many of you have seen student-run businesses. They are awesome. We had one in my middle school. It was a bookstore. Well, those have evolved incredibly since then, where students are learning things like how to design a product, how to ideate a product, how to understand the financial management aspects of running a business, cash management, financial statements, marketing analysis, production planning, supply chain, quality, all of these aspects that so many of us know are alive and well in the world of manufacturing. We're teaching those in student-run businesses in high schools across the United States. Well, here's the thing. Those student-run businesses and new ones will be more and more high-tech, using things like additive manufacturing, or the system on the left-hand side of your screen, which is literally a 3D printer that doubles as a CNC machine, using the same technology, the same control, using things like 3D scanning and these technologies. So teaching students Industry 4.0 level technologies within the context of a student-run business. We can have a student-run business that does metal forming. We can have a student-run business that does CNC machining. That is awesome. Those programs are fantastic. But you will see more and more Industry 4.0 level technology either complementing those programs that already exist, or in some cases having programs built specifically around Industry 4.0 technology. Prediction number 9, higher tech student-run businesses are in the future for technical education. Which takes us to prediction number 10. Now we're going to get into some predictions that are related more to trends that we see in industry. You would not believe the numbers of distribution fulfillment centers that Amazon has been opening up. It's absolutely mind-boggling. E-commerce grows every single year. Would you believe in the year 2021, it grew by more than 15% again, just in 1 year. E-commerce is growing like crazy, and as a result of that, distribution, fulfillment, supply chain, that's growing as well. We're all living through that right now with all the constraints that we're seeing in the supply chain. But cutting-edge programs are starting to teach this technology. Barcode reading, RFID, maintaining this type of equipment, understanding conveyors, understanding ASRS systems. We have cutting edge technology programs that are teaching this technology now, delivering certifications, for example, in certified technician supply chain automation to students today. This technology is here to stay. It is becoming ubiquitous across every single market, and cutting edge programs, especially at our technical colleges and our community colleges, are starting to morph their programs to make sure that this technology is at least included, if not have an entire degree pathway around supply chain automation and emerging technologies in distribution and logistics. So that's prediction number 10. On to prediction number 11. We will see continued automation. And here's the thing, the automakers have been automating for years and years and years. We've used on this very space the example of robots in the world of, in the automotive market that predict their own future failure and order their own replacement parts. We've been talking about that for several years. Well, now automation in other segments of our economy, food and beverage, distribution and logistics, other aspects of manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, all of these markets are automating at unprecedented rates and have now overtaken the rate of automation in the world of automotive technology. And so if you are in one of those other spaces and you're not adding robots, you're not adding smart systems to your training or to your production systems, you are falling behind because the rest of the world is doing this. As the world continues to automate, technical education must also continue to teach competencies like robot jogging, like robotic macros, like end-of-arm tools, like dual check safety, teaching that technology in high schools, teaching that technology in technical colleges to prepare students and learners for the future. You know, I've talked to several educators over the course of this year who have said to me things like, you know, our local employers, they're not automating, they're still trying to find people. Well, no kidding. We automate in many cases because we can't find people. If we're saying we're not going to spend money training our students on automation, if we're saying we're not going to automate our manufacturing plants because we're too focused on filling empty positions, that is a losing proposition. Those companies will be gone in 5 to 10 years. We have to implement this type of technology. We don't have enough people coming into segments of our marketplace to be able to continue to produce product and meet market demand without automation. It's absolutely critical. So across every level of education, middle school, high school, technical and community college, universities, we need to be implementing this learning. It is the very technology that our students will be married to when they enter the workforce. Prediction number 11, continued automation at unprecedented rates in the year 2022. Prediction number 12, machine vision. If you're not familiar with this, it's like the camera that you see on the screen, and in this case on a FANUC robot. If you think about it, in my days of manufacturing, if we wanted to automate a manufacturing process, we were basically telling a robot to find a spot in space, find an x-axis, a y-axis, and a z-axis coordinate, and go to that spot. And by golly, that part better be there when we get there with that robot end-of-arm tool. Because if the part is out of place, end-of-arm tool is going to crash into it, or it's not going to find it. That's why it was so hard to automate certain aspects of manufacturing, because in many cases we're going into a container, looking for a part, taking that part out of the container, putting it into a machining center, putting it onto a processing rack, and if everything wasn't in exactly the right spot, the robot couldn't do it. Well, now with the advent and continued advancement of machine vision, robots that can see, they can see like people, and that technology is advancing at incredible rates. The resolution is becoming way better, so we can deploy vision systems and processes that are way faster and way more detail-oriented than anything in the past. And so with technology from the resolution standpoint, from the lens standpoint, and so on, all of these technologies are advancing in the world of machine vision. These are things we certainly have to be teaching at our technical and community colleges. And I can tell you, K-12 educators, we're starting to see these programs in the high schools as well. Because we know that for our students going direct to workforce, they're going to see this technology in manufacturing. If they're going on to the technical or community college, they're going to see it there. Increasingly, if they're going on to the university, or certainly if they're doing research at the university, they're going to see it there. So we're seeing this literally in high school programs teaching machine vision and every other level of education. So prediction number 12, keep your eye on machine vision. Another automation related prediction, autonomous mobile robotics. This is different than the automated guided vehicles that we talk about often on Webinar Wednesday. An automated guided vehicle, a driverless fork truck, if you will, that technology follows a line or follows a certain set of coordinates. The driverless forklift, if you will, runs exactly the same route day in and day out, mission in and mission out. This all changes with autonomous mobile robotics. We literally now have driverless forklifts that can think for themselves. Driverless forklifts that can think for themselves. So we can move material around a manufacturing operation, and rather than just following a prescribed route, using artificial intelligence, using machine learning, using other technologies, these autonomous mobile robotics will optimize the path and make that path as efficient as possible. If a container is in its way, it knows the environment well enough to go around the container and continue going where it's going. This is really, really cool technology. If you find this interesting, I would tell you to keep your eyes on a company called Otto Motors. That's their product in the picture right there. They're in Kitchener, Ontario. They are coming to education with some really, really cool technology. If you're a regular listener and viewer on Webinar Wednesday, you've already seen this. Autonomous mobile robotics. We need to teach these. Community college, technical college, university, and yes, even in our high school. Prediction number 13, we will see continuing investment, continuing innovation in the world of AMR's autonomous mobile robotics. All right, on the home stretch here, we have two more predictions for you. Prediction number 14, data analytics will continue to become more and more important. Would you believe that Netflix saves $1 billion a year using data analytics? By knowing exactly what you watch, knowing exactly what your interests are, knowing exactly what your preferences are, and serving up to you custom content that is curated specifically for you based upon what those preferences are. And they say doing that, they save $1 billion a year in customer retention. That is just one example. The amount of data that we have available to us, not just in manufacturing and industry, but across every span of the economy, is unprecedented. Literally a 5,000% increase in the amount of data that flows across the internet in just the last 10 years. We are swimming in data. And so as we look at data, we look at data analytics, we look at how do we analyze the information coming from, for instance, our manufacturing equipment, understanding that informational data that is actually important to the process and discerning that from the seas of data that maybe is not particularly important to our process. Data analytics is going to become increasingly important. That's why we're seeing a convergence between computer data science programs and IT programs and statistics with technical education. Those used to exist in far different realms of education. They're getting closer and closer together because they're crossing over every single day in the world of education. So data analytics important, not just to the math students necessarily, not just to the students in the data science programs, but to the students working in tech ed with robots, with manufacturing equipment, with anything related to industry. Prediction number 14, data analytics will play an increasingly important role. And as a result of that, we need to be teaching things like data, like discerning data, like coding, like programming, and so on. And by the way, taught the right way, kids love it. Taught the right way, they love it. So look for really, really cool innovation in the world of data analytics. Our final prediction for today, prediction number 15, artificial intelligence and machine learning. What you see on your screen there is a program that was featured in March of this year on Webinar Wednesday at Oakland Schools, 23 middle schools teaching artificial intelligence and machine learning using autonomous vehicles, teaching machine learning competencies like classification, teaching unsupervised learning, supervised learning, reinforcement learning, all these aspects of artificial intelligence and machine learning with autonomous vehicles that are talking to each other, that are literally driving themselves autonomously without the help of any outside computer, keeping track of where the other vehicles are, keeping track of what is in front of them and behind them, where they are on the course, what the traffic signs tell them to do. Having the ability to do all of that completely autonomously and teaching that technology to students when they are literally 10, 11, 12 years old. That is where this is going. And of course, we can teach high-end machine learning as well, all those competencies we just talked about with really, really complex systems too. You will see artificial intelligence and machine learning throughout education, from middle school all the way through the university. And if you're not teaching this in your courses, your students are missing out. And I dare to say they are getting passed up by the students in other districts who are learning this today, who will know it when they get onto whatever comes next, whether that's going direct to workforce, onto their community college, to the university, onto military service, all amazing pathways for our students. We want to give your students every opportunity to be successful when they get there. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are not just the future, they are the present. We need to be teaching this at every level of education, and that will increase even more in the year 2022. So that is it for our predictions for next year, the coming 12 months, an exciting time in technical education, an exciting time in education. And for our audience, thank you for being with us for an incredible 2021, and also a little bit melancholy, but to tell you that it's been an incredible run for Webinar Wednesday, which, as Melissa alluded to early in our discussion today, will be sunsetting as of today. That's right, today is our very last Webinar Wednesday, and we owe it to our amazing audience to tell you why. If we think back to March of 2020, there was a weekend in mid-March when the whole world changed, when I think every single one of us knew that education as we knew it before was not going to be the same thereafter. We're in a company, ATS Lab Midwest, where we rely on interpersonal relationships, getting to know people, walking in the door of a technical community college, high school, university, industrial employer, K-12 school district, meeting people, talking to people, building their trust, letting them know that we are all about what's best for their students, for their communities, for their programs. That was the lifeblood of our business, and it had been for almost 50 years. And then all of a sudden the world shut down. And we were in a little bit of a panic. How are we going to continue to connect with customers when our whole business model was around people out in the field meeting customers? A huge part of that was Webinar Wednesday. And of all the ideas that emerged of how we stay connected with our customers, this was one of the best. For weeks and weeks at the height of COVID, we were drawing literally hundreds and hundreds of people to Webinar Wednesday every single week. 85 episodes in total. 85 plus guests that joined us to share their information, to help you through COVID, to help us think about how we were going to teach our students and learners in this new era of manufacturing, and in this new era, more importantly, of education, while we are locked down and while we are physically separated. We became a conduit for those people to share their stories, to share their ideas. And we were really, really proud of that. Not because it was anything that we did, but it was amazing guests and amazing attendees with amazing questions, all about securing the American dream for the next generation of STEM and workforce talent. Well, now we're in a different era. We're back at school. We're back at work. Tuning into a weekly webinar every Wednesday is a lot more difficult when we're in the classroom than it was when we were sitting watching our water heater in our basement during the height of COVID. And for that reason, our market has moved, and we move with it. We are making this the last Webinar Wednesday. As it says on your slide, and as we announced yesterday, all good things must come to an end. And Webinar Wednesday has been a really, really good thing. I have to thank the entire team at ATS Lab Midwest for all the ideas. I have to thank all of our amazing guests. A special thank you to Melissa, who, as you know, has produced this webinar series for a year and a half, more than that, 21 months. That's not just what you see when we get together virtually during the session, but it's preparing all the guests, preparing all the questions, making sure the PowerPoints are ready, making sure the invitations go out, making sure everything runs perfect. She has worked incredible magic along with a number of other people in producing this webinar series every week. So with that, and as the sun sets on 2021, this is not goodbye. You can trust ATS Lab Midwest to continue to find incredible ways to innovate, incredible ways to support your pursuit of your goals, because that is what we are all about. It's the sunset of Webinar Wednesday. It's not goodbye. It's so long. Thank you for these last 85 plus episodes. Thank you for joining us week in and week out. Best of luck in 2022. We will be there for you, and we look forward to taking the journey with you.